I enjoy waking up every morning like, what problem can I solve? I enjoy being faced with the challenge and saying, well, what are my options?
Yep.
How can I get out of here, or what can I do to pivot or change the outcome of what it may look like it's gonna be? But I know I have the power to change that.
We came up at a time where like we had to be those tough little men at times.
Yes.
We were told, no, that's not cool. I'm honored as fathers and men to be able to show people a different way to be successful and just, you know, be a man and a human in modern times.
What is it with you and best friends and black guys? Like, you might be black deep down because we all love you, bro. Like, you're very relatable to us, you know?
Starting a company, regardless of your resource pool, your experience level, any of it, is not an easy thing. So that alone's hard, but doing it where you are so deeply driven by values and impact is even that much harder, right? Yeah. Everything in mainstream media is geared at Cheech and Chong or Friday.
Right.
And it's fun. We should all laugh. That's okay. But when you're dealing with something that has been stigmatized, that people have been marginalized over, that people still are sitting in jail for, there's a level of reverence and respect and reality that has to be brought into that.
What's good, everybody? It's your guy, JoJo Simmons, and this is the For Good podcast, where we focus on the good, never the bad, where we're measured on what we do, not what we have. And today is the special edition. We are in the Yurt with my co-founder, my brother, my guy, my friend, Kris Karl. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Joe. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. This is the first episode at the Yurt on your farm, obviously, Karl Family Farms, that produces a whole bunch of great stuff that we'll get into, I'm sure, over the episodes go on. But happy to be here on the Yurt. Happy to be chopping it up with you as co-founder of 3 is 4 with me and at the helm of the company, the CEO. So, you know, we're going to get into a lot of stuff today, but welcome to the Yurt, everybody. Welcome to the Yurt For Good universe. This is the Yurt, you know? This is the Yurt.
Welcome inside, everybody.
So a lot of people know, I mean, some people may know your story, some people may know my story, but I don't think they know the story of 3 is 4 and how this all came about. And I think the most important part is, how did we meet, right? Many people, well, I wouldn't say many people, people that have seen our content or seen interviews with us know that it was high school, but there's a deeper story. So do you remember meeting me? Do you remember how we met? I know there's a bunch of different stories we have together, but do you remember how we actually met?
I'll try to remember the period it was, but I remember in high school we had, you know, the different blocked period days or whatever. And I forget if it was a free period or a lunch period that we overlapped on like 2 days a week. And we shared mutual friends, right? You had just come to school. I think you transferred in like partway through the year, or was it?
I know I came in, well, the thing was my first 2 years were spent in other high schools, but I came in my junior year.
Okay.
You and Dave and everybody were sophomores, and I was a junior. So I wouldn't say I came in late through the year, but I came in late in the whole gist of the thing.
Time, yeah. And so anyway, I remember one day it was walking in a free period or lunch, and you were sitting with everybody, right? So introduced, got to know each other a little, but honestly, we didn't really click at that point, right? Like there was a lot of personalities in that group, you know?
A lot.
And I wouldn't say we had any issues. We just didn't really like click and start hanging out a whole lot.
We didn't become friends right away.
No.
We had no issues. I remember seeing you in the hallway. My thought, I always say, of Kris Karl was, I used to always see you in the hallway, and there was a mutual respect.
Yep.
There was a mutual love. Hey, bro. Oh, what's up? Da, da, da. We used to discuss boy things, you know? I'll just leave it at that. And that's what it always was. But we speak about mutual friends.
Yep.
Dave Dow.
Dave Dow.
Who's Dave Dow to you?
Dave Dow is my longest running best friend or friend, generally speaking, and family to me, right? I mean, Dave and I have been friends since we were 5 years old. Kindergarten together, reading class together, wrestled together all through middle school and high school. And yeah, just, it's my guy.
So to give context to who Dave Dow is, he is the 3 in 3 is 4. There's 3 of us in 3 is 4, 1, 2, and 3. Dave would be 1, 2, or 3, doesn't matter. We don't do numbers, but he is the 3rd co-founder in 3 is 4. Doesn't really like the cameras much. We'll put that out there.
Behind the scenes.
He may not ever give me an interview, which is cool. But Dave Dow is the glue, we would say, because he was also one of my first best friends when I moved to Jersey.
Absolutely.
I'm a kid that came from New York, didn't have much friends, went to a different school in Jersey, which was Ramsey, and then ended up transferring.
I forgot about that.
I went there. So I did high school in New York for a little bit in St. Mary's in Manhasset. I only did like 1 semester. Crapped out, as we would say. Dad was like, this is when my dad first moved to Jersey from Queens. And he had the house and he was like, called my mom, was like, I'm gonna move my son out to Jersey. He's gonna, I'm gonna raise my son to be a man thing, right? And he didn't know what school to put me in. He put me in Ramsey, and I was in Ramsey for a while, and that didn't work out, crapped out again. And I landed in Northern Highlands because of the Saddle River, where we live. All those kids were telling me, hey, you're in the wrong school.
Yep.
You're supposed to be in this school.
The twins and Louis and
Marios,
right?
Athos, Louis, Shibashino, shout out to them if they watch this podcast. Shout out to you. Shout out to my brothers. Those are my neighbors. They were my neighbors in Saddle River. And they told me, you're in the wrong school. Why are you in Ramsey? You're supposed to be in this school. So I end up coming to Northern Highlands. And as any black kid does, he looks for the other black kids, right? And there goes Dave Dow. And Dave Dow comes up to me and he introduces himself. And he's like, hey, I'm David Dow, and da-da-da. And I think off relatability, me and Dave Dow became close right away.
A lot of similarities.
Being kids of color with some privilege.
Well, and I think also you're successful fathers who were in the public eye in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely know, like, immediately I recognize that for both of you as like a way to feel seen by somebody in every capacity, right? Like, okay, people know who my dad is, people this, all that,
right?
Which was important, I think.
Yeah, I think Dave Dow, like, it was very relatable, and Dave Dow was the glue for me with a lot of people in that school because he kind of helped me understand who was who, what was what, who was who, because I didn't know. I was very standoffish to a lot of people, so that's why and we'll get into why me and you weren't as close in those earlier years, but I came standoffish because you're talking to a kid that is on his 3rd high school.
Yep.
At this point, I'm telling myself I don't want no friends. I just want to graduate and go on about my life. Like, I don't know who's who. I don't know what's what.
Yep.
So yeah, shout out to Dave Dow because he's the glue. He really always talked about Kris Karl in high school. Kris Karl's my brother. Kris Karl's my guy.
And then we also had
Keys.
Call out Keys, right?
Of course, my best friend to this day.
Remember that guy.
Keys is another best friend of ours, all of ours.
Yep.
Traveled the world with me musically, did a lot with me. Just got off the phone with Keys 2 days ago. But Keys was another glue because he has an interesting life too. And we'll talk about Keys quickly because I know we need to get back on 3 is 4. So Keys was an interesting character because, like I said, I'm from Queens. I came from Queens, and now this other kid from Queens comes to this school with privileged kids, I would say. Yeah. But his first friend was who when he came to Jersey?
Me, I guess.
It was you.
Kind of oddly, and like we became.
What is it with you and best friends and black guys? Like, you might be black deep down because we all love you, bro. Like, you're very relatable to us, But all jokes aside.
No, but Keys' thing was I knew his family. He came to live with his aunt and uncle, and cousins.
Yep.
And
I call him the real Fresh Prince.
His story was really kind of that, right?
A neighborhood that wasn't as favorable to Saddle River.
Yep. And they were like, hey, our nephew's coming to stay with us. Can you drive him to school? And I picked Keys up that first day, or, they dropped him off at the house, and I drove him to high school. And from then on, we were just tight. Like it never changed. And it's funny because I look back, like your relationship with Dave and Keys, my relationship with Dave and Keys, those were three triangles that were like so tight, like obviously aligned across the board on everything. And yet we kind of like rotated around each other, but never fully connected, right?
Yeah.
Until after the fact, which is wild.
So I want to bring that up. So you said it perfectly. It was all the same thing. It was just on two different opposite sides of, because like I said, Dave spoke very highly of you, so did Keys. This guy, Kris, we're going up to he's got these 4-wheelers, and I'm like, I'm going to Queens on weekends to see my mom, which a lot of people probably thinking, this kid doesn't want to be around us. But
that was part of it for me.
I gotta be with my mother.
We both were like different places all the time.
And they used to talk about all the fun you guys would have. I'm like, I wish, but I'm not as close to Kris. So what do you think? Now, we speak about how we both had the same best friends, literally, Keys and Dave. And obviously we had a lot of mutual friends throughout the school.
Yep.
Why do you think we didn't click right away to the point where we were so close to the same people? We had the same best friends. We had a lot of mutual friends in high school, but yet you and I didn't cross paths as much as we should have. What do you think prevented that? And then I'll give you my take on it.
So I think first and foremost, it was a logistical thing, right? Like you were going to Queens to see mom on the weekends. I was often headed upstate or somewhere else with my family or whatever.
A lot of traveling for both.
Right. And I think midweek, whether it was sports or whatever was going on, like it was few and far between the opportunities we would have just hung out.
I also was filming Run's house.
You were filming Run's house.
Throughout my whole high school career, I would say. I was filming Run's house basically.
You're right.
The whole time I was in school for those last 2 years.
Yep. And I think there was a piece of it too, Joe, where like, and I call out a lot of my young male energy on things, but I think equally, right? As much as we both shared two best friends.
Testosterone.
And it wasn't like I was in competition, like Joe's taking my friends or vice versa. But I think there was just this piece of like, all right, I'm friends with them, they're friends, but like, I don't know.
About this guy.
Right? And I don't know why in any other setting, like at this stage in life, I think we'd all look and be like, I should definitely figure out like if I like this guy better because we clearly overlap, right? But so I think there was some of that. I think there was like a little male energy. I'm sure there was, the typical things that young men are worried about involved. But beyond that, I think for me, and I recognized this at the time, but we weren't close enough to where I think I would have talked to you about it. Where like now I do.
Right.
That you came to the school later, like you said, you'd had your issues at other schools, but also you have a famous father and you are on television. And I think a lot of people did gravitate towards you solely for that reason.
Yeah.
And others, there was always like something. They treated you a little different, all that. And I think because of that, it made you a little reluctant to connect, right? Yeah. Not just, hey, I had problems at other schools, but also like, are you fucking real or not?
Who do I trust?
Like, who do I trust? And I think for me, you didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a shit. Right. And so I was just like, all right, whatever.
Which is the right way to go. which is the real way to go about it. Like, that's what a real person is going to be like, well, I don't give a fuck then, bro. Like, I get that.
And so I think there was a little bit on all sides of that. So, there was that.
Right.
Definitely, though, too, I think, like, at the time, we both were really good at shelling it out. We grew up in a time and place where like busting chops and messing with each other was the thing, right? You talked the most, like shit to your closest friends. And at the same time, like we were close enough to where we could say those things to each other.
But not close enough to cross the line.
Then I'd be like, fuck this guy. He can't say that to me.
Right.
And I think we both had those moments. So I think there was a little bit of all of that.
Right.
But it's funny now, and I'd love to hear your memories of it. But it's funny now because I think we've gotten to this place where like you, Dave, Keys, and some of our other friends, we're all maybe equally close.
Yeah.
But you and I maybe communicate the most at
For
this
sure.
like deep level of
For sure.
we're fathers. We have those
the
struggles,
relatability.
the relatability. And I might call you first sometimes to be like, bro, I'm feeling this. Like, let's talk about it. And it's no knock to, you know, anybody else, but it's interesting how that dynamic has shifted.
Yep.
And I laugh because I don't know that we would be where we are today had
Without
we
the
been
past.
tight back then.
Right.
Right. But
Agreed.
at the same time, like I laugh to think all of those wonderful support we could have given each other, friendship we could have had further along those years, had we maybe recognized this, whatever, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you know?
I gotta agree. You know, I echo everything you said. I think that a lot of that played out into it, but also internally, you hit it on the nail too, was who I can trust. But it wasn't also that, was do I fit in? I never knew if I fit in with what kids, because like you said, some kids treated me differently, whether it was nice or spoke bad about me or thought I was a different person. So I never knew, do I fit in? And that's why I think I came in to Highlands, to the school, with such a mindset of I don't want to make any friends. I just want to get through this and live my life, because it was like, do I fit in? Do these kids think I'm too good for myself because I'm on this TV show that comes on every Thursday and they see me every day? Am I too New York? Am I acting like I'm too from Queens? Like I didn't know, you know what I mean?
And it was an environment, but like wealthy, suburban town in New Jersey. You can imagine the personalities, the viewpoints, the this, the that, where there was a lot of like, even having grown up there, there was a lot of catty bullshit, right? Yes. There was a lot of cliquey stuff. And I imagine for you in particular, like coming to that later, not having the full lay of the land, right?
Exactly.
It's
just
hard,
like a TV,
right?
you know, like those TV shows and movies you see of those like towns where it's like the super rich kids and you come and like literally Domino's was being served at lunch and we had a salad bar and we had a spicy chicken Tuesdays and like there was 2 different pizza things coming, Domino's, and then you had Village Pizza up the block coming.
I forgot about that.
Bro, there was a salad bar. Like, and I'm not sitting there saying I don't understand wealth. I've always grew up with privilege.
No, even, but it was just
even the Catholic school I went to, St. Mary's, was a very nice school. It was a Catholic school.
No, it was.
But to come up and be like, these kids are showing up in Bentleys. These kids are showing up in SL Benzes. These kids are showing up in brand new Escalades. It was like,
and that's the thing, is like, it was overall,
I'm somewhere different.
There was a high average, you know, net income level across the town. Well, it was multiple towns, right? But it was really like one of the towns was far wealthier than the others.
Yeah.
Saddle River.
Yep.
Right. But, you know, that wasn't everybody, but there was enough percentage of kids with that level of wealth that it also just led to like, there was some ridiculous, where I think you and I this way, we came up privileged, right?
But grounded.
Blessed, but grounded, right? Our parents came up and they made sure that stayed with us. And that wasn't the norm around us.
No.
And I think we each had a little bit of a guard about that, because I'm like, that kid is obnoxious, right? Like, I don't care if you can afford that. You don't need to act that way. You don't need to whatever. And it wasn't all bad, but I think it was a really tricky place to step into. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you literally just took the thought out of my mind. Is accredit it to your father, my father, Dave's father.
Mothers as well.
Thank
you, moms.
Yes, love you, mom. But accredit it to them, because if you, Dave, and I walk in a room, well, obviously with my TV show, they're gonna know who I am, right? But if you, Dave, and I walk in a room, me no TV show, me no fame, you wouldn't know we came from money. Right. The most powerful people are the quietest. And I think you, Dave, and I held that to a high level and esteem in high school. It was like, we knew we were just as privileged as the others. We knew that we were taken care of, but we never acted like the obnoxious kids. Yeah. Like, I never saw that from the three of us ever. I never saw like treat people badly because my parents worked a little harder or my parents had just a good break. You know, it happens, right?
Yep.
whether they were super smart and got it, or they were an entertainer, or they worked their butts off to the top of the media and production company, whatever world, right? Our parents always let us believe that we got you, but we're not going to give it to you. We want to see you work as hard as we did to get it, right?
Yeah.
So in the same sense, and it's a good segue because it almost ties into this question of when did we decide we wanted to get in business together with this whole 3 is 4 values-driven studio that was originally going to be weed and all this other stuff. And I started off like this. I think what drawn the three of us together was that grounding of, yes, we know we have privilege, but we want to give. We want to give to others. We want to help others. So what was your first thought of, I want to get in business with Dave and Joe?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, Joe. I think in the vein of being blessed and having a lot of opportunities in life, it came at a time where I was looking at opportunities to invest in myself, my family, and this idea of positive impact of the investment, right? There's lots of things that can make money, even if you're just buying, you know, equities and bonds and things like that. But I very much got focused on, if I and people I care about are blessed with wealth that needs to be managed, how can we use that not just to make money and keep our ability to give and support others and live a nice lifestyle, but also do good for the world, create positive impact. And in thinking about that, there's obviously traditional investment ways to do it, but I started looking at industries and ideas and things that I felt had a really strong positive impact. Same time, I'm a handful of years into being a dad, juggling a lot of things, being a business owner, a husband, a father, a son, a friend, all those things at a crazy time in the world. And my mental health had been struggling. And I found a whole new relationship with cannabis that allowed me to, you know, see it in a new light and recognize, like, okay, as we look to broader legalization of this plant, there's a lot here, and there's a depth to this industry that's being missed. So with that, kind of said, okay, let's start looking for investments here. Dave's been my best friend since I'm 5 years old. Obviously, we know, long time, you know, proponent, advocate, connoisseur, all of the things. As well as Dave had, when New Jersey started, you know, looking legal, pursued maybe some business opportunities there. So reached out to Dave, was like, hey, what's something we could do here? And it also coincided with what was going on in the world in America at that time.
I remember you telling me this.
You know, we were all kind of reeling from the George Floyd murder. And when you look at that, not really even just that isolated event, the fact that here we are this many years into life, I have children who I'm now raising, and the same things that have been going on for decades are still going on. And so that made it even bigger for me and bigger for Dave, because this was an industry that I felt, one, the folks who are most negatively impacted by its prohibition and all that are, to this day still, but at that point even more so, held from the ability to access the market and benefit from it, and the opportunity it's providing. And also that, you know, I've always felt the American incarceration system has a lot of flaws. I did a lot of nonprofit work in that realm for a while. And I said, hey, there's a way to tie all this together. So we really got into it initially looking for an investment in cannabis. And I hit Dave up, and within 5 minutes, Dave was like, we got to talk to Joe. And
I remember.
And so it all just kind of felt like it made sense. And the three of us got on the phone that day.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. We were off to the races. And from there, you know, we've had some bumps, some bruises, some wins, right? Man. The true kind of entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
But I think the thing that united us, the thing that made it clear to me that it made sense through the different partnerships we've had, through the people that we've won with, lost with, all of it. We have remained in alignment about our why.
Yes.
We have remained in our alignment about this isn't just about making money. If we just wanted to go make money, we each have opportunities outside of this to do that.
Yep.
I don't say that in an ego-driven way. It's that we're here because we want to be, not because we have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's led for us to some beautiful things in content, media, you know, all things creative as well as cannabis. And
so speaking of content media, when was the turning point for us when we were like, okay, this isn't going to be cannabis right away. Let's pivot to content.
So, you know, and I've been talking a lot, so I want to hear from you too, right? But I think it was really, me, you, and Dave are also all strategizers. The same way that Dave was that like guide. He was your Sherpa through high school of like, okay, these people are this way, or like this kid, this thing.
I've got special stories about
right?
Dave that I'll tag on after you're done. That explains that very well.
Right. And so I look forward to hearing those. But I think we all do that in our own way. We're all connectors. We're all the people who like put us in a room. We're gonna get to know people. We're gonna genuinely connect with them, and we're gonna have conversations that give us often a further depth of understanding, whether that's us learning about a style of music, learning about the cannabis industry, learning about the cannabis movement, learning about incarceration or whatever. We go deep, we connect, and we find ways to really put ourselves into other shoes and see their perspectives. And I think in doing that, we went deep on learning the cannabis industry, on learning a lot of this stuff. And a kind of fewfold thing happened. One, we just saw all the volatility in the market.
Yes.
In various states, the more mature states, the earlier ones, we saw that there were, you know, super high cost to entry in a lot of these markets with, you know, questionable return.
Yeah.
And so, you know, kind of identified, okay, let's dip our toe. And we tried a number of things. But along the way, we saw you have an industry that is held back from marketing in a lot of ways, has a lot fewer opportunities to tell their brand stories, to connect with the consumer. And obviously, there's reasons that make sense or doesn't. Due to legalities and all that. But we said, we'd love to support the folks doing this already in getting their story out there. We'd also love to have America and the world learn a different perspective of these industries and cultures and communities that we're connected to. And as that started to happen, thinking about cannabis, that branched into everything that we're all about. That branched into me as a regenerative farmer, you as a musician, you as you know, an entertainer, and a culture-driven, you know, kind of group of folks that we are, right? Wherever that comes from, I think that caused us to start to shift, and we started to be able to flex our creative juices.
Yes,
that is obviously where your strong suit is, right? People know you as entertainer, musician, you know, hip hop,
reality star,
all these things,
all
right?
That,
hip hop royalty. But I think the thing that maybe a lot of people haven't always seen is behind the scenes of all of that, you're really a producer of all of those things, right? Like you have come up seeing this your whole life, interacting with it, and you understand how to get that product, how to get that golden reaction from somebody. And that translated really well to what we do as a studio.
Yeah.
Dave, obviously, journalism and, you know, production background that came in. And, you know, I've always had artistic tendencies and creative side, but, you know, I more brought the regenerative business and sustainability mindset, some business acumen and all that to, you know, to the fold.
So, which we so needed. You always need the business acumen guy. Like, you always need the guy to be like, all right, guys, hold on.
And I sometimes limp in that case, Joe.
I wouldn't say that, but you're like a Army Swiss knife. You plug and play you wherever, you know, creative side. Like, even a client the other day that I won't speak on much, but like you leaned in on the creative side and did something that was so well thought out and well put together that it's like, okay, Kris could do literally anything. So like, okay, yeah, you can get the business done, but then, hey, Kris, we need you on this creative brainstorming. You're gonna come in there and you're gonna give your value every time. So never lack in any area. But the way I see it is, so I'll take it back to when I first got that call from Dave Dow. I'm in LA.
Yeah, we went off on a tangent.
No, yeah, because I asked about it, but I'll build you up to why I believe we became what we became today. I'm in LA, I'm shooting growing up hip hop. Dave calls me. He's like, yo, Kris wants to start weed. First of all, I love weed. So he's like, he wants to start selling weed. So I'm like, oh, my own weed business with you guys? Of course. But it was also like, great, I get to get this time with Kris. Because the last time I saw you was at Dave's sister's wedding.
Yep.
And the first thing I thought was, I get to know Kris. I get to know what type of guy he really is. So that was like one of my main incentives of coming on board. It was like, okay, cool. Like, we'll make some money. Maybe we'll do something like with the weed, where it's like, I didn't have a clear plan of what it was going to be, but it was like, we'll sell weed. I didn't even know what that meant. I'm just like, okay, cool. We get a license, we grow. But like you said, as any businessmen would do that are going to put a large investment into anything, we went and did research. We went to everywhere possible, from Hall of Flowers to all the events we needed to be at to be in the cannabis space, to see what the ROI was going to be and was it worth.
And could we do it in alignment with the shit we cared about?
Exactly.
Too, right?
Because we also always pushed being intentional. And that's another conversation that I love. I'll talk about the phone call we had. Was we instantly got on the phone and all clicked on what we wanted. Whether it was weed, whether it was selling hats, it didn't matter. It was, we want to give back. We understood that we came from a philanthropic background. All three of us. It was like, well, at the ethos and at the core, it has to be give back. Yeah. It has to inspire. It has to impact. So even if the weed that we drop, cannabis that we drop, it has to impact. It has to go back to something. Yeah. So that was always our main thing. So then when we went around, and like you said, we saw that it was a volatile business. It was a lot going on. It was like, I don't know if we want to dip our toe on this yet. But we had an aha moment at one of these events where we looked at each other and was kind of like, content. This world needs storytelling. Yeah. Not just content, but so many great people that have paved the way in cannabis aren't heard about, don't have their story being told. And I think that we were there to show up and do that. And that helped in a lot of instances for us to learn that we were a content team, that we were good at production, we were good at creative, because like you said, I came from a background of always being on TV and being in that world. Dave's a background of CBS, a legacy of CBS, and you obviously have the artistic touch where you like cameras, you like shooting, so I don't think it was very hard for us to all come together and say, light bulb, yeah, we all love weed, but we're all super creative and we know how to run a business.
100%. And I think along with that, Joe, the other piece of it was we saw a beautiful and vibrant community of people that are what I refer to as, there's the cannabis industry and the cannabis movement, right? And there are so many powerful stories there. There's powerful stories of wrongful incarceration. There's powerful stories of medical miracles, essentially. Yep. Stories of people who risk themselves to help others. And a lot of that story has just never really been told all that well. And there were people within the cannabis movement or the cannabis industry that maybe are great storytellers or have good production value. It's not that we brought something totally new. Right. It's that I think we brought the ability to connect that back to a mainstream like line, as well as really stand up and address some of the elephants in the room, right? Like, okay, everything in mainstream media is geared at Cheech and Chong or Friday.
Right.
And don't get me wrong.
Great movies.
Yeah,
right.
Like, love all
the
of
entertainment
it.
side.
The entertainment
it's cool.
side, it's fun. We should all laugh. That's okay. Right. But when you're dealing with something that has been stigmatized, that people have been marginalized over, that people still are sitting in jail for, there's a level of reverence and respect and reality that has to be brought into that.
Right.
And I think for us, we saw that. We said, how do we connect this all together? And so in doing that, we also said, like, it's not just about us. It's not just about us making money. We want to uplift and support others. We want to build community further. We want to see this industry and movement be equitable. We want to see people who need this medicine get the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, I think that added to it a lot as well, where we started to see, like, it's not about the quick green rush money grab, right? If we are going to do something more plant-based down the road, which now we're getting to all that stuff as well.
Sir.
Conversation for a different time.
Yes, it will be. Yep.
But we are going to do that, you know, in a way that isn't exploitive,
right.
that isn't just centered on us.
Yep.
And that's not the easiest thing to do. So it was a cool way for us to shift, go that media route, support and learn the industry more, get to know folks, see the good work being done, see the bad shit being done, and bring that all together.
Agreed. I think you perfectly said that. It's, to me, content is the number one educator right now. To me, if you can get out the visual, people are going to watch it. But I always wanted our content to be intentional. I always wanted to educate, entertain, educate, the 2 E's. Like, it's good for us to laugh and be entertained, but it's also good for us to teach through what we put out. And I think that us choosing to go this route has paid off, because not only have we did work in cannabis, but now we're doing work outside of cannabis, connected to cannabis, and it's showing that we're just a super creative team, right? Like, we any task thrown our way, shout out to the team, we're able to overcome. We're able to come at it with a fresh look and be different than everybody else. So that's why I love what we've created and what we're building, is because we're creating something that nobody's ever seen before. Like, yes, media, but then there's so many different wings of what we're doing, where at the soul of us is not just another media company, it's an intentional media company.
No, I think you're spot on, Joe. And it's funny, you and I have laughed, cried, you know, hugged, screamed, all of the things together through this.
Yep.
Starting a company, building something, regardless of your resource pool, your experience level, any of it, is not an easy thing. We've both done it in other settings. We've, you know, all that. And everybody I know, from the smallest business owner to the biggest, describes similar difficulties when you're building something from the ground up.
Yep.
So that alone's hard, but doing it where you are so deeply driven by values and impact is even that much harder, right?
Yes,
because from the easy decisions to the hard decisions, they all require more time. They all require more insight. And it's also really hard to be human, to be a dad, be a husband, be all these things, and carry these, you know, carry the business line through all of that. Particularly where the way you and I do business, the way we work with our team, it's really, you know, personal relationships. We build that. We want to work with teammates, clients, partners, all of it that we care about, that we can truly connect with. And it's just not so common in today's world, right?
It's not common.
And we live in this time where, while in one sense we're wildly connected more than we've ever been, we're also all a little bit more isolated in some ways, because I can sit in my house, have all my business meetings, you know, do this, do that, talk to my friend here, and have never left
The
the room with four walls,
Right.
right? And obviously the pandemic showed that to the world in a deep way, but I think it's just something we have to balance. And that makes some of these things hard because, you know, you have the weight of caring, but having to make a business decision.
Yeah.
And all these other things. And there's heaviness to that. So, you know, good and bad all together, we're blessed to be in that place.
Amen.
And our journey from high school to here, in my eyes, you know, is really one of friendship,
Yeah.
one of personal growth. And it's something I really cherish, you know.
Don't make
and
me tear up, man.
No, but
Tear
you know,
up,
it's funny.
It's
I
a
think
brotherhood, man. It's a
is.
brotherhood.
It is. And I think me, you, Dave, Joe, Keezy, our core friends, and
Yeah.
even others that are on the edges of that or have been a part of it along the way. I think we also love having the opportunity through 3 is 4 and other things we do, not to be a soapbox or a platform, but to be a place where we get to show an example,
Yeah.
right? We live in this time where everybody can broadcast their views, their business happenings, whatever on the internet. And we like showing something different, right?
Yeah.
Where, hey, we were blessed with privilege.
Yep.
Hey, we've been successful in our own right, all these things, but we're making a decision that's a little bit different.
Yep.
We're doing it a little different. And the same way goes for, you know, sometimes people are taken back where our friend group, we all say we love you to each other openly, no problem.
All the time.
All the time.
And I always will.
We check in on each other when we leave to
You
drive
have to.
home, like all that kind of stuff. And not that that's so unique, but I think our age, we came up at a time where like we had to be those tough little men at times.
Yes.
We were told, no, that's not cool.
Yep.
And I'm honored as fathers
Mm-hmm.
and men to be able to show people a different way to be successful, show people
Right.
a different way to do business, a different way to connect with the world, tell stories,
Mhm.
and just, you know, be a man and a human in modern times.
You know, we are the new generation of men. We're the new men that are saying it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to tell your friend that is a man that you love him, not in a sexual way, right? In a friendship way, that it's okay to show your feelings.
Yep.
It's okay to cry. It's okay to speak up when you're not okay with something. I think you said something important. Growing up, we had to be those little tough men because that's all we know. But in a sense, I like this new generation of men that we are, where it's like, nobody said we're soft. We can turn that aggressive part on at any given moment, but it is easy to turn on that vulnerable side.
Yep.
And I love that this new generation of men is like, yeah, it is. Yeah, I'll talk about that.
Yep.
It makes me feel better. And that doesn't make me any less of a man. It doesn't make me not a powerful, strong man. It doesn't make me, not to, against anybody that does, like the other sex because I'm showing vulnerability and care for my fellow man that is my friend.
Yep.
Because that's just a human decency trait. And sometimes I feel raising men, you know, they take the human decency out of it back in the day. And I think it's coming back, or it's not coming back, it's being introduced to boys and men that this is a human decency thing to check on people and tell them you love them and be okay with not being okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, you know, it's, you said that really, really well. And you know me, I can ramble on and on. I don't want to necessarily, you know.
This is what the Yurt is for, man.
I don't want to
Ramble.
necessarily get redundant on any of it, but I think it's everything you said, and it's also, I look at the pain
Mhm.
that men, women, non-binary folks, all of it have gone through at the hands of the world telling anybody, regardless of gender or identity or anything, they had to be a certain way because of that, right? Whether that's a racial thing, whether that's a gender thing, whether it's any of it. And I think being vulnerable, it's like, we're all human. Just because I'm big and bad, or just because I'm little and gentle, or all of those, doesn't mean things don't make me sad. Doesn't make me, things don't make me this. Doesn't mean I can't be hurt. Doesn't mean I can't be joyful. And I think across the board, it's just that we're like, we can be vulnerable. And in being vulnerable, I think we also heal more. I think we also benefit those around us, right? How many people have been hurt because, and I think it's very common with all genders, but particularly men, because a man has to repress so many things that society told him to. And particularly when we look to our fathers, our grandfathers' generations and beyond, that had negative impact on their sons, their daughters, their wives, their, whoever it would be. And so I think that's an important thing, that it's just like our guy, Jay Barnett, shout out to Jay.
Shout out to Jay, my guy.
I know one time you guys were talking and I was kind of on the back end listening to the cameras, and Jay said, "What you do not heal, it will be revealed." Yeah. And that one has resonated with me. I have done that in my own life. You have those moments, you hit the wall, right? And you spin out a little bit and you realize this is something that I could have managed, I could have healed, right? A 9-year-old me needed the tools to deal with this and didn't have them. And now a 25 or a 30 or however year old me is dealing with the consequences of
the 9-year-old.
And a lot of that is because we didn't have the ability to be vulnerable and talk about that said thing. Right. We didn't know, all of that. And so I think that's the other stage, is like, we might be ushering in that new generation, but I look to Joey, I look to my boys, right? And not to discredit the father that you're being to Mia, but as our boys, as young men,
it's a boy
coming
thing.
up in the world,
It's a boy thing. It's a man thing.
I'm hopeful that a lot of the things we had to wrestle through, they really will never even have to deal with.
Agreed.
And even if they do, they have, a lot of wonderful men in their lives. Not even like no ego about us, others around them as well, who set these examples for be you, do things your way. Right. And man.
Deep. We got deep. And that was really talk about the why 3 is 4 started. That's why that. You see how creative we are? We just start, we ramble, but you get gems. Speaking of 3 is 4, obviously now a creative, value-driven studio was going to be weed. Let's talk about our love for weed. Since we talk about how we wanted to start weed, and obviously we wanted to do it intentional, but we love to smoke weed. Yep. The differences of us smoking weed. I personally like the loud. I like to be smacked. I want to be sunk into my seat. I'm going to smoke a joint of the most strongest weed you can find. Kush preferably, but gelato, all that. But you take the outdoor approach sometimes. You take the sun-grown approach sometimes. What is your preference? Because me and you have 2 different preferences. We both like weed, but we come at it in a different way, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I think there's a time and place for everything too, right? Like there's different pieces of it. Historically, I eat or ingest more of all of the various cannabinoids, right? But my weed, as we would say, more than I smoke it or vaporize it. But it really depends on what
the situation.
Am I using this to support my stress levels or something? I'm whatever. Am I treating pain? Right? Was I just injured? Am I this? Am I just using it to unwind and have fun? And I think that's what you have: the medical side of the cannabis industry. You have the recreational side. And to me, it's like it's medicinal regardless of whether you're using it recreationally or medicinally, right? But it also has to be used with intention, as with anything. And so for me, I think there's also a lot of misconceptions and things that the prohibition on weed caused to be the case. Most people associate sun-grown or outdoor weed generally with a lower quality product, right? that's not the case
Not
when
at all.
done right.
You've taught me that there's some gas grown, sun grown. Trust me.
And in all truth, you have situations where what the sun can do for terpene profiles or cannabinoid, ratios is impossible to do with lights. And so therefore you have these different things. So you can have that really loud couch locky OG that you love, right?
Love it. That's
that
my
gassy stuff, which I do enjoy as well. Outdoor or indoor.
I don't know why I enjoy
done
it so
right.
much either, but I don't know. I like it. Keeps me calm, I guess. I was raised a very wild child, a lot of energy. Pretty sure I have ADHD. But I think that's what it helps it with, honestly. My mind constantly going.
And I think that's the thing is like your personal preference, like what I explain it this way is where like if I'm colorblind and you're not, and that picture is green, right? What's green to me is different than what's green to you, but they're both green, right? Like it's what I know. So it's very much the same with cannabis in that way, where like two things can be the same and different to each individual, right? So the way that OG affects you might be different than how it affects me. So I think there is like our brain types are the way our body metabolizes.
Yeah.
It can be different person to person. I tend to have slightly different effects. I feel slightly different effects than most people do. So I generally like what most people refer to as like super energizing and almost racy sativas. But to me, that's like putting on glasses. It's very mellow. It's very level. I get creative, but I just am in that zone, right? For a lot of people, that can be a more overwhelming type.
That's probably why I like it, because it keeps me creative.
Right? So various different things. I would say like I love my gassy OGs. I love that kind of stuff. I do love lemony, piney, earthy, hazes, Jack.
I love a good haze.
That kind of stuff, right? I love funkier landrace strains. When I'm growing weed and having that relationship with it, first just for myself and then developing now into business and all that.
The thing is, you grow weed too.
Right.
So it's a little different with you.
Exactly. It is. I mean, I think I'm also one of those people, my brain, for better or for worse, when I'm interested in something, my brain goes really deep, right? I think I also I'm a farmer before any of the other stuff. And that's always been regenerative livestock, pasture management, and vegetables, right? So when I bring that perspective to cannabis, I think I also just come at it from a different place. There's a lot of the industry where they learned to grow or learned about, plant health and botany in a grow tent or in a blacked out room where everything is lighting, humidity, airflow is all provided by a machine in some capacity, right? All of my stuff comes from growing vegetables, crops, whatever, in native soil with compost created on my land, using the benefit of my animals in a regenerative fashion. And so there's just a different angle at which I came to it than a lot. Now, there's a lot of incredible regenerative farmers who know more than I do and have come even more from that lane. But I think it brings, like, in the broad conversation, a different perspective. But with that, the stuff that I love to grow when I can and is very hard to do at scale and for profit are the really long flowering sativas and landrace strains that require a lot of care, and they're not going to yield often anywhere near what a big producing commercial type plant would. But I think you just get the essence of a plant.
Yeah.
And I see that in a different fold. Most people experience that through effect, right? You've felt it. Like you might even, a couple times you've said to me, like, you have some flower that I've given you.
Oh, you gave me some fire last time. It's gone.
Well, I'm glad.
It's all gone.
But even a couple times where you've been like, you know what, like initially, hey, it's not nosing super harsh or not harsh, like very strong, but
you crack it open.
The effect is much stronger than an equivalent. Like if you were to compare that to indoor weed that you had bought that was a little lacking in that nose, it's still there. And there's various reasons for that, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that, hey, Kris fucked up on the cure because I was rushing it back in the day, right?
It is what it is.
But, you know, I think, Joe, in looking at it from that perspective, like I also see the plants where some of these plants, they're more vigorous. They want to survive. They want to grow. They adapt. They're very unique. And I can compare that for myself to like the livestock that I raise, to all these things. And I think in seeing that, it makes me recognize that when you grow with intention, when you grow with care, when you have the time, there's a lot that this plant can bring that most people don't and haven't got a chance to interact with. So that really just for me brings like, I love weed.
Right.
I love it in various forms. I really like, you know, traditional extracts, solventless, you know, traditional pressed hash, even anyway.
But I think this is why this partnership is so important, because obviously, like I came in it as just a smoker. I like to smoke good weed. I know a thing or two about it. I've had street weed all my life, so like I can, off the smell, I can tell you what it is. I can tell you, you know, I can eyeball a dog on 3.5, right? But I think what was so cool about also partnering with you and doing this company with you is on the weed side of it, was you teaching me all these things about the ins and outs of cannabis.
Well, and we learned together as well, Joe. Like we went out and learned from the people that know. So shout out to our community.
Yeah, so many
shout
people.
out
Shout out to the cannabis community.
Right. All of our friends, partners.
Yeah, for sure.
Allies along the way.
Yep. So as you being a regenerative farmer, we are currently on your farm right now in a yurt. And when you first brought up getting a yurt and the team call, I was like, what the hell is a yurt? I Googled it and I'm like, okay, it looks like a really cool big tent. But can you explain to me and the viewers, what is a yurt? Why did we get a yurt? What was the intention of the yurt? And where did you get the yurt from? Like where did this, it just popped up on your land?
So, yeah, I mean, I think framing it in the regenerative sense, the use of structures that are more semi-permanent is something that throughout history has been a part of many cultures. Obviously nomadic cultures, but as well, it's just, hey, we're on the land, why build something that fights it instead of... So yurts traditionally used by nomadic people, Central Asian steppes, areas like that.
What made you want one?
What made me want one? I mean, one, it's just cool. It's like you said, it feels somewhat more like a tent. You feel like you're kind of out in nature more, yet at the same time, you're comfortable and all that. There's a lot of open floor space. I think it's round. It kind of brings people together. And yeah, so I'd been interested in getting one for a while. And then a local school had gotten one as excess space during the pandemic, no longer needed it.
Had it at a good deal.
Had it. So yeah. And brought it here, set it up, you know, built this little deck on it. And it's, you know, it's in the middle of one of our gardens where we grow vegetables and walk out my back door of my house and pick vegetables for dinner. Grow some cannabis, let the bees buzz around. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of just a little space back in the woods on the farm that we can be creative, we can have fun, and
a creative
all
space.
That. Yeah.
And I see you use it as your office as well. So
absolutely.
probably helps you think out a lot of things. I see you got whiteboards and chalkboards and things everywhere for you to brainstorm. So, I think very multi utilization at the Yurt as we kick off this episode from the Yurt, and many others will follow, I'm sure. Because I love the vibe. I'm loving the vibe in the Yurt. This is my first time at the Yurt. Obviously, I've been here multiple times on the farm, but seeing the Yurt for the first time, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the space. This is the podcast studio for me. So as we kind of get into the end of the episode, because I know that we probably went so over, let's get back into 3 is 4 for a little bit, and us as partners, business partners, right? A lot of people accredit how well we work together. What would you say are our strengths together, that why it works so well with you and I when we go into these client meetings, or we, something needs to get done, or even when a team, there's a little riff or anything, and it has to kind of fall between you and I to kind of figure out the navigation. Why do you think it works so well between you and I? After not being friends in high school and all that stuff, not being as close as we should have been years ago, and now we come together now and we work extremely well together. And I know we say it a lot all the time, we go on these and we know we're in sync all the time.
Yep.
What do you say the strengths are? Why is it work so well?
I think it's a great question, Joe, and I don't know. I might not be smart enough to have the exact answer, right? But I think we're able to be really transparent and open with each other in a way that we both know is never judgmental, is never any of that.
It's never ego driven either.
Exactly. And so I think having that shared alignment and kind of ability to communicate so openly, everything's just out on the table.
Yeah.
And so with that, good, bad, or ugly, we understand each other's biases. We understand all these things. And I think we balance each other really well. And we appreciate that, hey, if I'm saying something crazy, you're going to call it out, vice versa. If I'm, something's...
I think we also respect the decision making that we both make. You said it one time, it was hey, some days you're going to be making decisions on the spot. I'm going to be making decisions on the spot. But ultimately, we know that we're always aligned in what we want this company to be and what we want it to always look like, right? Yeah. We know that there's a greater good other than Kris and Joe, right? There's people that rely on us to make sure that we make the right decisions to keep us growing, right? And I think that, like I said, it's not ego driven. It's always how can I lean in to help you with your strength or your weakness, right? Hey, if you don't fully get this, how do I lean in and help you on the business acumen side of it? Or hey, how do I lean in and help you on the creative side? Or how do I lean in and say, hey, I got a little bit better relationship with this client. Let me reach out. I think that, and also I think it's the way that we go into each meeting with intention on helping the client rather than getting money from the client. I think we both have that attitude of, okay, I'm going to go into this meeting and ask, how can I help you? Instead of how can I get money out of you? It's how can I let you find your true self through our services, right? And it's almost a sense of what I'll do for myself, I'll do for you type of thing. Yeah. And that's how we approach every client. It's I only come at you with these ideas and creativity because this is how I'd run my company if I had that same position that you're in, right? Yep. And I think me and you get that extremely well with companies because we've ran other companies and we have this company together now, but we understand kind of the language of authenticity.
Yeah, so I think it's everything you said coupled with we like to solve problems. Mm. And we're curious. And I think curiosity is the key thing. That's probably the other glue between me, you, and Dave. Is that we all are just curious.
yes.
Whether we like something, don't like something, we're we'll go evaluate this. We'll go poke around and see what this is about. Mm-hmm. And
that's a good point.
And I think we have fun with that. And that's the other way we approach like our internal business issues or, you know, just things to solve. That for our clients, everything is what problems can we solve for you?
Right.
What is the problem here? What is the thing that we're figuring out? You know, also then just to be curious, right? Like, hey, what does this client's customer actually care about, right? Not what paper says, what resonates most, you know? And I think that's really fun to look at it all from that perspective. And I think while it's fun, it's also, we share that very much in common. So I think we're transparent, we're honest with each other, and then we just share this value alignment and curiosity that makes it all easy.
That was a great call out that we all share curiosity, but we enjoy problem solving, because I think about that. I was thinking about that on a ride up here. I was like, man, like I enjoy waking up every morning, like what problem can I solve? Like, I don't know why, maybe it's the Libra in me, but it's like, it gives me purpose to be like, whose problem can I solve? What problem can I solve? What feat can I defeat? You know, because it gives me a purpose to like problem solve. So you made me just think about it myself. Like, I enjoy being faced with the challenge and saying, well, what are my options?
Yeah. How
can I get out of here? Or what can I do to pivot or change the outcome of what it may look like it's going to be? But I know I have the power to change that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, the reason why, you know, you, Dave, and I work so well together is we understand it together. And we came into this with a plan that we stuck to the whole time, right? We saw it through. And no matter if we would have ended up selling sneakers, right? The intention would have been the same. It would have been to give back. It would have been to make impact. It would have been to inspire. It would have been to help people that don't receive the help, right? And don't receive the platform. As we went super over on this episode. We might have to cut this one up. But this has been a great one, man. Happy to finally introduce the Yurt with my guy, my partner, CEO Kris Karl, 3S4. And you know, I look forward to many other episodes here. Obviously, we'll be shooting a few more episodes here. I'd love to have a few people come up here and come sit down with me. But as much as you guys might have loved the Yurt, sad to say that next episode will not be in the Yurt, but please look out for it because it will be with my guy, Trell, the trainer. He is a social media star who was also a trainer, got a crazy life. You might want to watch it. His life was pretty crazy, you know, served some time in prison, came home, was able to really change his life. He speaks of a plant-based diet. He speaks of fitness. He speaks of mental health. A lot of his social media clips about mental health go really viral. They do millions of views. He's also very intelligent on the financial side of things that a lot of young Black men don't understand when it comes to like Roth IRAs and compound interest and where you should be investing your money to kind of, you know, see where that can work for you, where it's not, you know, a means to a way to have a comfortable living if you just use your mind. So I think that the episode with him is a special episode. I really hope you tune in for that one because it is a great episode. He's speaking about a lot of things that a lot of us young cats or a lot of us old cats or people that just need to know. So please tune into the next episode. This is the For Good podcast from the Yurt, where we focus on the good, never the bad, and we're measured on what we do, not what we have. It's your guy, JoJo, and my guy, Kris, signing out. Peace.
Catch you next time.